Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mintle. Hey, thanks for listening to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. Faith radio podcasts are only possible because of your support. Thanks for giving and for sharing with a friend.
Doing life together, reaching out with hope, encouraging one another, each step along the road. You and I can make everything a little better, doing life together.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Linda Mintle, the relationship doctor, and I'm here along with my co-host, the other Dr. Mintle, my husband, Norm. And every weekend, we're here, we're doing life together, and we're so glad you've joined us.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many times do you think, on average, you wake up in a bad mood compared to what I wake up in a bad mood?
I think I'm better in the mornings than you are.
You're way better in the morning.
We've been married a long time. I'm a morning person. You are not.
No. Sometimes when people wake up in a bad mood and can't shake it, it follows them all day long. They're miserable to be around. You can't figure out why. You're in a funk. So on this program, we want to talk about getting out of the funk.
That's right.
And turning a bad day into a good day.
Well, we all have those types of days, right? We all have bad days, but we don't want them to keep going.
Right.
And to continue to linger in our lives. A few years ago, I saw a really interesting article on Flipboard, Norm, by a woman named Susie Moore. I don't know anything about her, but it was called 10 Ways to Get Out of a Funk and Fast. So this is what gave me the show idea. So I thought we could look at her suggestions and maybe add a few of our own to help us all change a bad day to a good day.
Good. Let's dive right in. Here's our first tip. She says, ask yourself, what is the best thing that has happened to you so far today, and what did you most appreciate?
You'd have to do that like the first minute you got up.
Well, I wouldn't have an answer yet.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. But really, that's a great question because it's going to change your focus from the negatives right away to the positives. And honestly, the answer to that could be something big or it could be something small. So for me, a small thing is I really appreciate my Keurig in the morning. I like my early morning cup of coffee. It represents a few moments of solitude when I wake up, so I can reflect on the goodness of God. So how about you? Can you mention a small thing?
I thought about this, and then I thought of another really good one.
Oh.
So the first one I thought of is where we live, it's almost always sunny.
Yeah.
And when I'm in my car driving to work, most days there's a perfectly blue sky.
Yeah.
You know what makes me happy?
What?
Seeing clouds.
Oh.
Because it's different. And there's it feels good. But I figured out the really one that I really like the best.
Okay.
In the summertime, I don't wear socks. And that makes me very happy.
I will say my flip-flops are right up there with that
See?
too, if I could just say. In fact, it was funny because I put them on one time when we were coming to do the show, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I can just wear flip-flops today and go into the show without wearing tennis shoes. Of course, it's freezing in our studio, so my feet do get cold. But our point here is don't underestimate the importance of focusing on the positives, even if they're small things,
Right.
because you're changing your brain. You're focusing on something positive, and then verbalize them or just intentionally think about them. We all know it's easy to get up and start thinking about all the negatives, what I have to do today and this horrible meeting I'm going to have. However, when you intentionally think about the small things you appreciate in life, it begins to change your mood from bad to good. So in addition to the small things, there are bigger things we can all think about, right, that we appreciate. So I appreciate my home, my husband, my kids, my family. I even appreciate my job. I'm glad for it. And I appreciate our church.
That list was the easy list.
I know. It's all the big things, though, isn't it?
So you answered first, and you took all the easy ones.
Okay. Well, did you think of some others?
Well, I did. Things I appreciate when we travel, and we both travel a lot, and I used to travel all the time.
All the time, you did.
Was when we had what I called a no-drama trip. No delays.
That's right.
No bad weather.
Rare these days.
Lost luggage.
Yeah.
I also really, really appreciate hot showers. And that may sound like a small one, but for me, it's a big one.
It is a big one.
But you know what? Those are all first world problems, aren't they? We take so much for granted living here as Americans with all this abundance around us.
Yeah, and I can say our health is one of the ones we
That's
appreciate too, don't you think?
Okay, here's another specific question the author of the article asks us all to think about. Which household items, okay, think about this. What in your house, what items in your household do you most appreciate and why? Now, you've already said the Keurig, so what else?
I mean, I don't really think about what household items I
You take them
appreciate.
for granted.
I do. A household item. Okay, I appreciate. Okay.
I know one.
I know. Okay, so my awesome vacuum cleaner. How many years ago did I buy that
Oh,
thing?
at least 25.
And I spent like hundreds of
It
dollars.
was like $400 or $500
And
back
it
then.
is still working. I don't know if I should say the name of it. I bought it so long ago. It was when our kids were born, so our kids are now 30.
Oh, that's true.
So it's at least 30 years ago. And boy, I paid it a lot of money. But you know, nothing works better than that machine. It has such good suction. It just makes me happy when I pull it out and I use it. It's really heavy, though, I have to say.
Well, I like our Keurig, but I like my frother.
Ah, you did get that.
That little frother, I pour a little bit of half and half in there, and that whips it up, and I put it in my coffee. Now that makes me feel like a barista at home.
I think number 2 for you is another cooking item that you love and you use all the time.
My cast iron skillet.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. I've got 3, 4. I had 5. I guess we gave Katie one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not things we have to have, but they're things that make us smile and make the tasks that we love, in this case cooking for me, so much more fun and easier.
I mean, you love to cook and you're
Yep.
gourmet when you cook. And I always see you when you're pulling out, you're like, okay, I got 3 cast irons here. I can pull the one out for fish. I can pull the one
that's
out
right.
for...
That's it.
Yeah,
I have one
yeah.
for beef, one
It's
for
awesome.
fish. Right.
It's awesome.
That's
All
right. Okay, here's a harder question.
Okay.
What do you most appreciate, okay, are you ready for this one? About your body and why? Now, most of us know that you wrote a book called Making Peace with Your Thighs that talks about body image. So I'm asking you and our audience, what do you most appreciate about your body and why?
Okay, so this is a hard one for most of us because most of us do not feel good about our bodies. And part of that is because we're bombarded with all these images in the media, right? That show us what the perfect body looks like. And now the way you can edit everything and filter everything, and I even put your head on somebody else's body. You don't even know what you're looking at, but it still affects you the same way in terms of that negativity because very few of us look like supermodels. So when we compare ourselves to those perfect and altered images, we usually come up short and we don't like the things about our body. Sometimes we can ruminate on the parts that we don't like. And if you look in the mirror at the beginning of the day, you know, that really can put you in a bad mood.
Okay,
So-
really nice answer, but you didn't answer the question.
I
So
know,
I'm going to
I
answer it for
know.
you.
Okay.
The thing I appreciate about your body is you have spectacular hair.
Ah, well, that's a
How's
good
that?
one.
Okay?
That's a good one. So even though my hair was very much brighter than it is now, it's really faded over the years, and I was really pale, so I was never that, you know, tanned blonde, and I lived at a beach, so it was a little bit tricky for me there.
So maybe one of the helps for us is not to look in the mirror.
Yeah, maybe all the time.
We can over-focus on our body. You've talked about body dissatisfaction being a sign of eating disorders, which is a big problem in our culture.
So, you know, Norm, avoiding looking at your body isn't the answer. You don't want to just not ever look.
Right.
But an over-focus on it can be a problem, and that's when we see people developing eating disorders and a type of body dissatisfaction. So you really have to have just a balanced approach to your body, maybe focus more on the health of your body, doing things that are healthy versus a certain way that you must look like, especially because of our genetic differences. Sometimes it wouldn't matter how much I would want really, really long legs. I don't have them.
You'll never have them.
Right. So I'm not going to look like somebody that.
But then what is at the root of body dissatisfaction?
Well, it's usually some feeling of not measuring up, you know, not being good enough, not feeling accepted. And that's unrelated to your body. That's a root that you have inside that could be sort of being projected onto your body issues. And that's why you have to have an identity grounded in Christ and the image of God. It's so important to find a place where you can say, this is who I am, because your body's going to age, it's going to change, it's never going to be perfect this side of heaven. So if your sense of self-worth comes from how you look every day, you probably will have more than a bad hair day. You'll have many bad days. So we need to redirect our focus on what we like, not always on what we don't like.
I wonder what I'll look like in heaven.
I know.
And I wonder if
What
we all get to
age?
choose what age.
Yeah, what age will we be?
what-
Isn't that a great question to
All right.
think about?
Here's another one from the author. What are some things that recently went right or better than expected in your life?
Okay, so
2 minutes to go before the break. Go.
Okay, go. Okay, you're pushing me to
Yep.
answer this quickly. I think again, it's focusing on the positive, right? That's a mood lifter. So when you're focusing on what went right, not wrong, you're going to feel better. It's that catch 'em being good idea, isn't it? So
Well, that's kind of what we do with our kids. And you used to say that when you taught parenting,
Yeah.
catch your kids doing something right. If we focus on that, that helps.
And so maybe we need to do the same thing with ourselves. So here's an example. I had to fly to Maine for a family emergency, and the flights were available and went smoothly, even though I was going for my dad's illness. So God really orchestrated that trip, and I was so thankful for that. And I kept looking for his hand in the middle of all that difficulty. So I really focused on why I was able to make the flight. The flight didn't have any problems. I got here when I needed to. And that focus on how God is moving in the situation
Right.
is really helpful.
And that turns our mind intentionally to see God in that situation. We should do that with our marriages, right?
We should. And if we focus on the relationship, if we focus on all those things that are positive, and we could tell each other the positives, which couples don't do very often. In fact, we know that in troubled marriages, there's very little positive focus on what each person does right. So refocusing would make a tremendous difference in marriage.
And that works at the workplace.
It really does. If you stay positive at work, boy, it's hard to do in some work environments, but if you're having a tough time and a tough conversation, maybe you got to find something else about the day that went well. You finished a project, you made your deadline, something, or you showed kindness to a worker. Find that place where you can say something positive.
That's good. Okay, one more before we go to the break.
Okay.
I'm grateful that I'm healthy enough to
Travel. We love it. We know that that's one of the things, and I can work out and still get around and great mobility. I'm really happy about that.
Right. My grandmother used to pray every day for a healthy mind. She lived to be 97. She was alert every day, and my father did the same thing, and interestingly, so do I.
Great.
Good advice so far. We hope you're beginning to think about a few changes that you can make right away to help make tomorrow a better day. Stay with us. So much more to come right after this break.
Social media can be a real source of jealousy in our culture. It's so easy to be envious of a friend's fitness progress, a family member's new car, or a colleague's promotion. Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mintle, the relationship doctor, and I know I'm not the only one who plays the comparison game on social media. But if our self-worth is measured in the number of hearts our Instagram gets, we're missing the point, big time. Instead of obsessing over the number of thumbs up you get, ask yourself, are my actions worthy of a thumbs up from God? I promise you, He doesn't care what your outfit of the day is, or if you're drinking your first Starbucks red cup of the season. God already gave you a double tap when He knit you in your mother's womb. And the only filter we need is Christ Himself, who erases our imperfections and makes us holy. Having lots of followers is great, but remember, God asked us to follow Him first. And you can tweet that.
You're listening to the Dr. Linda Mintle Show, and we're very happy you're part of our audience. Let me remind you quickly that Dr. Linda is on social media. You can go to her website, drlindamintle.com. You can find there a lot of ways to follow her. In addition, she's written many helpful books. One that we mentioned earlier today, Making Peace with Your Thighs. Most people love that title. A book on body image, what?
It's got those synchronized swimmers
Oh, that's right.
on the cover with their legs sticking out. I love it. Making peace with your thighs.
Oh my goodness, and you remember when the Olympics were on a little while ago, we watched those women doing that synchronized dancing in the water?
Artistic synchronized swimming. It was crazy. But when we promoted this book, Norm, we went, we were in this big booksellers convention, and they had ladies in one-piece bathing suits with the old flowery caps and towels around them, and they were handing out the books, and people just loved it because it made the point.
Well, I hope we turned some people's bad day into a good day then, and that's what we're talking about today. We recently also did a show on gratefulness and how that is a powerful mood lifter. That works, right?
Yeah, there's so much research on gratitude and the power it has. One study confirms that if you begin your day writing down 3 things that you're grateful for,
good.
Start your day like that, your day will be so much better. And that's so easy to do.
Right. But you know what? You have to be awake, have your coffee, and think about
And think
it.
of 3 things and then
Right.
write them.
Right.
That's the issue.
And then you can't use the same 3 from yesterday.
That's right. But you can always think of new things that you can wake up and have in your mind.
Okay, here's another good sentence. Let's finish this one. Though I may not be rich, I'm thankful I have enough money to...
Okay, on that one, I would say, I think help others, give to a need. I would always, I would like to be able to always have enough money to give to charities and other things. I would love to have enough money to give scholarships to underserved people and do that type of thing. We can do a lot in our lives, and we have a very comfortable life. So I think that giving ability that we have, and even people that don't have much money still give. So
That's
it's a
right.
principle of the scripture, but I'm really glad that I can do that at times.
Well, and while our desire for comfort is certainly very American,
Yeah.
because we're so blessed in this country, I think back as a child growing up in Central America, surrounded by poverty.
Yeah.
In fact, we were living in what was called the second most impoverished country in the hemisphere in those days. And it's all relative, because what a Nicaraguan or a Honduran may consider comfort is very different than our notion of comfort, for example. But the point here is to be grateful for what we do have.
That's right. That's right. So now your turn to finish the
Okay.
next one, okay? I appreciate that every day I get to...
Oh, that's easy. It is.
Okay.
Yeah. You're looking at me like, is it really that easy?
I know.
It is.
What is it?
I like to do what I enjoy, most of us do, which is teaching and interacting with curious and bright students. Making a meaningful contribution. For me, that's more important, especially as I get older. I want to enjoy those interactions.
Okay, so for me, I think it's waking up to you in the morning, even though I get out of bed sooner than you do,
I don't tell people that.
and going to a job that I love. And I feel that I make a difference in a few people's lives. And I even think it's fun to work on this show and do this every week. I mean, it's a real privilege to come before all of you and listen to us and what we have to say. So many things I could think of that I appreciate every day.
Okay, here's one. I like this one. The best things in life are free. We've heard that. Including?
Well, I came up with a real spiritual one right away. So that would be the unconditional love of God and His grace. I mean, those are the most important, but if I think a little bit more about it, all the happy memories, like the days our children were born, the day that I was married, of course, that was far from free, but not like it costs today, that's for sure. But things like walking in one of those beautiful nature trails and enjoying the beauty of God's creation. When we lived near Virginia Beach, going out to the beach and seeing the seagulls and listening to the waves, all of that. We have God's beauty all around us. There are times when I walk out of the medical school, Norm, and we're in the Blue Ridge, so we can see the Blue Ridge Mountain, the mountains over there. And sometimes the sunsets are just, they're like a painting. They're
stunning.
spectacular in terms of that. And I think one other one is, I think, humor. I really appreciate and love that, because if we couldn't laugh, I think we'd be feeling bad a lot more than we do.
You could rarely turn a bad day good on that one.
Right.
That was quite a list. I'm
It is quite
impressed.
a list.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more,
Okay.
and that this one's free. It's my freedom to respond.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you often say that we can't control other people. We can only control how we respond.
Oh, okay.
And the freedom that we have to respond positively or negatively, for me, is very important, especially when at the end of something I can look back and go, oh, good job.
Okay.
But usually I say, good job, Holy Spirit, because it's more than likely His response through me that gave me that sense of satisfaction.
Wow, that's good. It's really deep here. I'm thinking about that.
Okay.
All right, we don't have a guarantee about tomorrow. So if we think of what we might expect, we can say, I appreciate that tomorrow I will get to
Do it all over again. How's that? And maybe do it better than I did yesterday.
Well, I'd add to that, enjoy another stunning sunset. I'm just thinking about that sunset at the top of the medical school. I think talking to students, talking to my friends, encouraging people in the Lord, I think I'd add that to the list as well.
I want to go back to that sunset for a minute. I used to tell students, do you notice the sunsets? Do you pay attention to what God is doing? Can you see the incredible beauty of his artwork in the sky? I want to be in a place in life where I'm always, like we mentioned earlier, finding God. I'm looking for God everywhere.
Yeah, and we creation is one of the ways that you can really concentrate on that. You know, we've lived in cities where there are lots of beautiful trails, and you see just the beauty of God's handiwork in all the different ways and different. Like when we went to Santa Fe, that was so different, but it was beautiful the way that the landscape. You know, so different from the East Coast. And obviously on the West Coast, you see a lot of beautiful beaches and that type of thing. But one of the things that's amazing about that is not only the beauty that's involved in that, but it also calms us down.
Right.
And it de-stresses us. And there's a ton of studies that say when you walk in nature, when you just enjoy nature, you are de-stressing yourself as well.
I love it when God, through nature or through people or through stories, surprises me. It's like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
That is so wonderful, so much fun. All right, here's another one for you. I appreciate that I had the courage to fill in the blank.
Oh boy. There have been many times in my life where I've needed to trust the Lord. And I didn't always do that. You know, I get a little bit nervous or anxious and think, how's this going to work out? What am I going to have to do? But when I've had the courage to trust the Lord and make the changes that I felt like God was calling us to do as a couple, it always turns out great. You know, starting our own business, doing public speaking. I was terrified to do public speaking when I started it. I'd never done it, and it was hard work, but I trusted the Lord. He was opening doors. He was putting me in places that I needed to be, apparently. It takes courage to do that. Write a book. I had no idea how to write a book. And Norm, I never even thought about writing books. You know that, but I had an opportunity. It was brought to me. I trusted God. I figured, hey, you're opening this door. You're going to give me what I need and give me the courage to do it.
Right. I've always told our daughter that in career paths, when an opportunity arises, presuming it's not completely obvious that it's outside of God's will, your answer is yes. And that takes courage to say, okay, I'll try it. I'll step out. I'll learn a new thing. I want to build a new pathway in my career. And so I think that's when courage is required and it's rewarded.
And you've really led the way in our marriage on that because you just, I think it's your missionary background. You feel the call of God and you just go for it. And I'm more the one that questions and wonders and ruminates, but I've learned how to just do it as I've, seen this model from you and your family. So changing a bad day to a good day has to do with, learning to be content also, Norm, no matter what happens.
Yep.
If you appreciate what you have, if you notice the blessings around you, you focus on the goodness of God in your life, your mood is going to change. And the Apostle Paul reminds us of that when he says, be content at all times, no matter what. So we need to do that on a regular basis.
And the Bible also encourages us to wake up every day, every morning, and remember God's mercies are brand new today. They're new for us today, and great is his faithfulness.
So often in the Bible, God speaks to renewing our mind, and that's really what we're talking about today because we can't control all the things that happen in our life, and we know difficulty is going to come, and there are going to be bad days, but we can control, like you said, how we respond to that difficulty, and we need to move out of a victimization idea. We don't want to blame others. Look at our circumstances. We want to look at God and know that he has his hand on us through everything.
All right, here's my best piece of advice. Take your eyes off your circumstances and put them on God. That's what happened to Peter when he was looking at Jesus. Well, it's actually the opposite of what happened to Peter. He was looking at Jesus, and when he took his eyes off, he began to sink. That's what we don't want to do. We want to keep our eyes fixed on God.
So we have to learn to live with life's uncertainties. God knows what our day will bring. Every day is in his awareness. So it's important to remember that God is with you through the difficulty. He's working behind the scenes on your behalf. Remember that. He is working for your good. A bad day is a learning opportunity. It's a chance to see his mighty power at work. Jesus turned the worst day of his life into the best day ever for us. He sacrificed on the cross, gave us eternal life and peace with him. We can all wake up in the morning and feel eternally grateful for his sacrifice. So turn that bad day into a better day by reminding yourself that God is for you, a help in times of trouble, and will work all things for your good.
Good.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Many thanks to my co-host, Dr. Norm Mintle, who makes the show a conversation, and to our technical producer, Katie Sims-Wilson. From all of us here at Faith Radio, we'll talk to you again next weekend. In the meantime, remember, we're doing life together, and it's better when you don't have to do it alone.
Doing life together.
Hey, thanks for listening to this conversation from the Dr. Linda Mintle Show. These conversations are available because of your support. Become a supporter now at myfaithradio.com. Please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes, and share it with friends so we can live life to the fullest, walk confidently, and find healing and hope.